So yesterday was an absolute cracker of a day for reading the DOM. A lot of tape reading because obviously being in new areas, a lot of us are trading with the same hand. So I wasn't able to lean on some of the other edges that we look at, some of the relative value plays, those types of things. But of course, that also goes for a lot of the other participants as well. So if we're all playing with the same hand, we've got a number of players not participating. So it's far less algo behavior yesterday. Probably see that continue again today as the market's moved even lower, but also some of the antics in the DOM were quite readable as far as the spoofing that takes place or the games that are being played. So those who are very, very good at it goes by without us picking it up. But because you've got traders looking to find ways to adjust their game, of course, some of them are spoofing and it's not as well concealed. It's not their well-developed skill set. And so that's why there were lots of opportunities off the tape. So again, today, I imagine that will be the same type of behavior that we'll see. All right, so my rationale here is I sat through a day yesterday and there were a lot of fantastic opportunities on the DOM. Now today, I'm trying to think about who can get caught. So I'm thinking about those who were scalping long yesterday, who it's not their typical environment. I reckon they're going to get caught doing it. So I'm actually going to look for the play against what I would normally do because my competition is different today. Right, so that's what I'm looking for. I'm trying to get an edge by doing that. I've already hit the bid at 17, even though it's on larger size. There you go, there it goes. All right, so typically what we would have seen already is the market scream up, catch those sellers out. All we did is pop up a tick. So I think that we've got new longs now under pressure, so much so that I've added that order under here, which longs are leaning on. Irrelevant. Onside now at 17. All right, so notice the thinking went completely against what I normally do, but take a step back from that, it's actually not against what we do because we're looking for uncrowded trades all the time. So a fair bit of algo behavior here. I might, depending on what happens here with the 17 offer, just keeping an eye on obviously the volume that's going through. So I'm not seeing anyone of size step up, and noticing the time and sales with the odd exception, look at most of the size is pretty small. So I'm not dealing with big players here lifting and catching these shorts out. Now I don't have anything to work with as far as areas below here other than this previous low. So what I'm going to do is just use the tape. Right, so I'll use the market pace here. Here we go, pushing lower as we see now the starting to unravel for some of these longs. Because don't forget, with these lows down here, they're leaning on that as well. So for me, this is not one to go take two ticks on. I've just added again. So as a trader, this is what drives my enthusiasm for trading. It's the thinking through scenarios, developing those hypotheses, looking for the uncrowded trade. Now, there's no guarantee, of course, that this is going to work out for me. Right, I'll see if I can take some at 13 quickly. No, too slow. So only a tick on that ad, but what that's done for me now is just insulate me against anything other than scratch outcome. So looking now for further continuation to the downside. Notice how we're virtually algo free. You know, we've still got obviously some computer generated activity. There's always going to be that. That's the age that we're in. But those auto stacker algos that we often see, they're not present. See a slight increase in some of the size here on the selling. Now, it's not capitulations. It's not someone just entering new shorts. Just looks like, you know, some of those offside longs just now starting to exit more aggressively, like on bigger size. Because remember, not everyone just exits at one level. Traders will scale out of losses. They'll reduce size, that type of thing. Why would I want to exit now when I can see the concern of traders being exercised in the DOM or in the time and sales? I can see that there's that starting of more unwinding, but it's not yet that sort of final capitulation. So we're at expansion, and that's something I'm not going to ignore when we look at expansion on the 100 tick. Attempting to get some out. I'm on the bid at 11. All right, so out there at 11. There's capitulation, watching the 11, starting to take 11s. Notice the pace of the market then just changed dramatically. So I'll cover here. I have. All right, so it wasn't to do with price movement then. It was to do with just the behavior. Look at all the acceptance at 10. So I'm done. That's capitulation. I got the cue from the market. Now, I don't know where we're going to go to from here. We might really sell off, but I've just got to play the odds. And it's a type of behavior that I know what it typically leads to. So flat for now. There's the first 17. There's the second. And there's the third entry. Out, out, out. So we got in before the outcome was known, and you notice how, relative to the behavior right now, how more straightforward it was to manage. Whereas in this, it gets pretty out of control and it's much more difficult. And you can obviously, as you increase your sizing, this makes it tougher to avoid taking heat, crystallizing losses, all that sort of stuff. Whereas we were in, and it was very, very early on that we had no risk. So I don't look at it in terms of, oh, we didn't get a trade all the way down here. Well, it's basically not far off where we actually got out. This area here is much harder to trade though. And it always gets back to that, being able to pick those points where we have really small risk, can open up a trade, and the market behavior at the time is such that it allows us to manage it effectively. You can see that each attempt to buy so far has been washed out. So buying, out it goes. Buying, not so much. So just try to catch that difference between when buying is actually just bottom picking and gets caught versus the buyers who've actually are now going to move the market and catch the other shorts out. All right. So long from 66 even, you'll notice at 66, it's predominantly selling. And that's the case all the way down. So on side now, I've been reasonably tentative here as far as sizing is concerned. So if I'm tentative, I dare say others are too. All right, so we're kind of probing, getting a bit of a feel for whether or not this is the market likely to move directions now. So now that we're on side, notice that we've got some size at 66 even. Now we're on side plus a tick. Okay, relax. Now we can think about the next part of the trade. So why did I go here, long, not here? All to do with just the interaction between buyers and sellers. Not so much about price movement, but more about pace and interplay. As we see, are starting to move into some stuck shorts now. Now, I still believe that most of the players like myself who entered in this area did so tentatively. So I'm not prepared to add at this area because I don't know if there's going to be the commitment from others to support this. What, of course, is most important is that we be able to initiate a trade and then just take out the risk, which is where we're at. So if this comes back to where we've got a decent size bid, I'll just scratch it. And I bet you I'm not the only one who's thinking that way as far as those who are on side. So I'm just trying to think about who else is in the market and the way they're going to apply this. But if I can hold some inventory down here, that's going to help out a lot further up where we can start to look at building some size. All right, so 3 ticks up, not big size here, just want to get all the risk off. I imagine it's more tentative probes at this time. So while I've got all the risk off, I may now look to see whether I'd need to take some short-term money out. But if I can't do it because it just moves too quickly, for example, I've already missed O2, right? That's the offer now. Then so be it, because I've got a risk-free trade. So we set ourselves up perfectly for that. How much risk did we take then? We got offside by a tick. That's key here, that we can just not put ourselves under the hammer. Imagine what position other traders are in who've been in the markets today or have positions from longs from previous versus us. We're sitting pretty from a management perspective. We're not getting stressed out because we had a really, really small window of time when we even got offside by 1 tick, and then we're onside, and then it wasn't much longer until we had no risk. Just can't emphasize enough about it's not about picking this trade here. I'm always trying to make the trades as stress-free as possible from an account basis so that you don't suffer dips in equity, but also from a management point of view. Because if you have to go through discomfort multiple times during the course of the day, you run the risk of decision fatigue and not being able to adhere to what you're supposed to be doing. Whereas if we can remove a lot of that away from this, then it's not going to ideally impact you later with other trades. Because stress is accumulative. So sure, you can be tough and sit through a few swings. Try it on the 13th, 16th, etc. So it's the longevity of the trade. So not the trade itself, but working in the bigger picture of accumulating a sample size. So now we're into that feeling each other out stage, right? So I've talked about traders likely to be tentative. Absolutely, that's what we're seeing, this tentative behavior here. Now, I don't have the ability to predict what the outcome's going to be, but we're not sitting here stressed, offside. So imagine for a moment how much easier the task of scaling up your business is when you've accumulated a lot of experience of being able to demonstrate to yourself that you can take very small risk and ideally remove it pretty quickly. Once you've got a lot of experience, not conceptually accepting it, I mean internalizing it, and there's only one way to do that, through screen time and having done the numbers. Imagine how much more straightforward the path of scaling up your size is. We've got no real acceptance this second time up here at 03. You want to go into the markets not having any unrealistic expectations, but it's important that there is a level of enjoyment in this. Just can't be intense stress being offside with size constantly. And when you create a situation like right now, you can sit back and enjoy being a trader. Doesn't take away from the fact that what we're doing is very serious. You've got risk every time we enter the market, all those factors. I'm not trying to diminish any of that. I'm just talking about how we can impact our trading experience by the trades we take and the selection. And not only impact today, but also moving forward as you want to grow your size. Oh, it should be out. Wasn't stressful, was it? I'm not interested in just following that down as a short. To me, that's too obvious a trade. I'll look now for the entry back to the long side, but I'm not going to preempt it. I have to see some things take place first. So as I said, looking for that. Right, so sometimes, again, it gets back to that thinking about what others are doing. You don't think that this was perhaps some of these other players looking to build some size and wanted to get a good price? Because did you notice the size initially that went through here? It was nothing. So there's a bit of a pull of liquidity and just a quick push down with price to get some of these. Then the size came in down here. And again, this is a part of the game and why it's enjoyable when you can play along. So having spoken about that, I just said we'd be looking to get back in. So I've just started lifting at 60 again, and also have taken some at 01. So the 01s are offside. Well, they're onside now, but let's be honest, that's not enough size to really stake that claim. Here we go, beefing up now. So we had one go of it, and remember, it was really tentative. And then what I saw take place is more an attempt to bring in some more sellers, and now we get a more serious commitment. And this time we're probably going to move more aggressively. Now, I don't know that for sure, but that's my hypothesis, and that's what I'm going to play to. And again, I can create the same situation of no risk. Here's that nonsense bid again, but let's see this time if it actually hangs around. So there it is, 293. All right, a lot of flashing. See how it's coming back now? So yeah, it's gone, but the period of time that it's hanging around and coming back, number of times it's coming back, I imagine it's exactly the same player. So have a think about this. So that, I think everyone caught the first time. There they are on the offer, by the way, same player. And it got pulled. All right, so what they do is they put it back in, and we all went, that's a trap. So then they go back and repeat it, but there's some characteristics about it that were different this time. So this time it was intended to create the same illusion, but everyone saw it the first time. So it actually hasn't got the same desired intention this time. And this is what I was saying about how trading becomes really fun. There they are on the offer. Meanwhile, we're in a position that's moving our way. Look for some aggressive movement here. And if we start to get through this area, and this is likely someone sizing up here with all of this lifting. Here we go. It's fun, isn't it? It's just a really good fun game. I just took my lead from the other participants. Here I was tentative. Here I went a little bit more aggressively and then added again at 01. So that player at 04, I believe it was the same one. They've just shaved that down. I'm watching 05 and 06 to see if there's some of this maneuvering around extends to those areas. Yeah. Okay, so 05's pretty much gone. Now I'm going to just take a bit off at 05, just part of the prudent management of wanting to take money when things become obvious. Like, to me, I look at that and I go, hey, the market's just pushed up quite a bit. So I'll just take some off there. I haven't been filled yet. So you can see that bid moving around. There we go. I was going to say you could see that bid beefing and shaving at 04, but there was actually no increased business there. So I've taken some out here at 05. Up to VWAP, probably prudent actually to think about how to manage the rest of this from it's always prudent to manage it from a VWAP perspective. So we'll get a little bit of a reaction here is what I'm anticipating, and then there's a good chance we can just scream through. Now, we'll either, continue on in much the same fashion as we have already from the lows here, or we could really push back. Now, I think the first scenario is more likely, but however, because I'm aware of both, I'm just, I've got obviously protection in here, but I'm going to play the rest of this pretty tightly. As I said, what I'm looking for is some aggressive continuation here. It's just the way I've been reading the tape and the interaction. However, I see that as the more likely of outcomes. The other one is that, of course, we push back into this previous acceptance area. So I'm just trying to play this quite tightly as far as the risk management is concerned. You want to have some profit targets in place. I'm not looking to extend anything beyond CME VWAP. So targets are, for me, or exit orders, if you like, that are already in the book, the 08, 09 areas. On the offer here at, not now, so a big lot of volume there through 07. Okay, multiple failures at 07, and that was a pretty reasonable amount of in the last couple of ticks. You can just see this in the footprint, just how much business has been lifted. Working now a limit at 06. Not on the whole lot, but just that notion of, the market showing me what it's currently doing, and on that basis, I'm going to take some money out. No, right, so back to that area where we've got a whole bunch of failures, and looking to see whether we can get through 7, because there's not too much at 07 that's still under pressure. Really need price to move up and trigger perhaps some other threshold points.